Valve's Gabe Newell wants to sense your body, and he's making a steam box. This is first. I'm Josh Topolsky.
I'm Ross Miller, and this is day 2 of the show floor.
Day
3 of CES.
Of first. No.
Day 3 of first. Oh,
day 2 of CES.
Yes.
Day 3 of first. And
day 6 or 7 of us being
I've
here.
lost count of how long I've been in Las Vegas,
time.
but what I do know is I'm now an escort. So, you know, it's all really working out pretty well.
You must have had a late night then.
I had a number of late nights due to my new job as a female escort. Did I mention it was also a female escort? I mean female. You know, let's not get bogged down in the details.
So basically, you're a female pretending to be a male, pretending to be a female escort.
That's something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I think it's in the movie.
Everybody seems to enjoy it. That's the important thing. Everybody's having a good time.
Point is, we're exhausted.
Everybody's having a good time. We're very tired. This is day 2 of the show floor being open.
Right.
We have been here for quite a while covering the show. Yesterday was a massive day for us.
Yeah, it was a huge
our biggest day, I think, yet, with a ton of stuff. Funny stuff, weird stuff.
It's been very surprising how much
stuff.
fun I've been having at CES.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, you know, I try not to sound like I'm cheerleading CES because I think normally we come here and we see this as a mission we got to get through. We have a really good time with our team. This year, everybody was saying, "Oh, it's going to be a bad show and things are going to be terrible and it's hardware is dead." And I actually think it's just a really fun. Amazing.
I think we've been looking at this show different than from years past.
Yeah.
It's just we're looking for the weird more than we are we're not looking at routers anymore. We're years past that.
Yeah, I just think that I think you get that. I think just in general the public gets Sony's going to talk about 4K TV or whatever, and there's going to be you're going to get the press stuff, the regular press stuff, and then you've got to find the other stories that are interesting here. And I think we've been doing that, and that's really interesting to me.
But we'll get to that, and we'll get to Valve.
Yeah, and we will. We're going to talk about Valve. In just a little bit, but we've got some headlines.
We've got headlines. The first thing, yesterday T-Mobile made a huge push for its carrier. It really wanted to get past number 4. It made a bunch of big announcements. First and foremost, LTE. It'll be its first market is here next week. 100 million people by middle of this year.
Yeah.
Is
that LTE is going to be interoperable with AT&T?
I don't think so.
Do we know?
I don't think we know. But
why are they doing this? They're just making a new version.
Why are they doing?
I mean, it's just I know why they're doing it. I just think it's the worst. Like, can we intervene here? It's all the same LTE. Can we make the right?
It's
can
all
we,
the same
can we
LTE,
correct
like it's
our
all
mistakes?
the same 4G.
Well, no, but Verizon there's CDMA and there's GSM, right?
Right.
But now we don't have that problem.
But LTE is like different bands, different spectrums. It's all over the place.
Okay, fine.
Point is, no, you can't have this beautiful hippie dream world of yours.
HD voice.
HD voice is now HD voice compatible. If you have a Galaxy S3 or the 1S, you can start using it.
Yeah.
I still have never used HD voice.
Chris Ziegler says that it is an incredible innovation that we just can't appreciate yet.
How
because
often
we
do
haven't
you?
used it.
I just don't make phone calls anymore.
I do everything I can to avoid phone calls. I mean,
I don't like talking to people.
If there's any way I can get out of talking on the phone, I will use that technique. Faking my own death, holding someone hostage, saying, I can't come to the phone because I'm in a hostage situation. I don't know what that means. Why would you hold somebody hostage if you just wanted to avoid a phone call?
I mean,
seems like there are easier ways to get out of it.
It's like, look, I want to talk to you about your hostage situation, but you need to join this group meeting.
That's right.
And the last thing they did was unlimited data, completely unlimited data without contracts, starting at $70 a month.
Yeah.
The big thing, of course, is you don't get a subsidized phone, but T-Mobile's been doing a great job. Not doing half the new customers were contract free from some of the newer plans they've been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, T-Mobile is really pushing them. It's like, we're the new unique carrier. You don't want a contract. You want unlimited data. These are the buzzwords we always talk about wanting.
Yeah, I actually find these announcements relatively boring. Can I be honest? Based on what we've been seeing here, this to me is one of the least interesting things.
I mean, this.
Yeah, it just does not. It
just
kind of does nothing for me.
Okay.
In fact, I feel dead. Wow, that news didn't want to go away. Boomerang.
Was so bad.
Either you're bad at throwing those, or you really got to chuck them towards.
I think
the
it's
camera.
a little bit of both.
No, maybe.
All right, this is going to bore you just as much. We're going to get through it.
Maybe.
All right, it's the Wall Street Journal, Digitimes, and Bloomberg trifecta of rumors. Cheap iPhone.
Okay, so here's what I think is interesting.
Okay.
First off, they say they could be a cheaper iPhone with a polycarbonate body. It might be, some new material that's easier to cheaper and easier to produce.
They'll call it something new, but
they'll call it something new, but it'll essentially be an
polycarbonate.
iPhone 4S. Oh, polycarbonate, yeah. They'll call it, Apple carbonate. iCarbonate. Yeah. So what I think is interesting about this is that historically, for us, Apple has disrupted CES with news. This is, they do this. They love to do this. There's something that happened somehow. This got leaked to the Wall Street Journal. We don't know how. They have very reliable sources. They don't publish an Apple rumor unless it turns out to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But they always disrupt the show with news. What I thought was interesting is that yesterday on our site, this news hit, and I looked at our traffic, and it was the 7th most traffic post at prime time during the news, which I think is kind of incredible when you think about Apple's presence in the industry, and that everybody said this show was going to be dead. And when I looked at our front page, what was trending was actual news from this show.
I agree, but let me play a little bit devil's advocate.
Please don't.
Too bad. Had Apple done a special event announcement like they do every year in scripts,
totally different.
That would
totally
have
different.
Everything.
I mean, had they said we're holding an event, please join us, tune in. If it had been like tune in, this show would have been over in 1 second, because everybody would have started working on their editorials about Apple's TV initiative. What I also thought was interesting is the phone itself is whatever. Apple's going to make a cheaper iPhone. I think that's great.
That's the thing. No one cares about
the more we can get great smartphones in the hands of the people, better off we'll all be. But what I thought was really interesting was this rumor happened, and then 15 minutes later, Facebook issued an invite to an event.
Right.
And I strongly feel that they must have been waiting to see if Apple was going to do an event, and they were like, "Well, they're not doing it. Let's do it."
It's a CES tradition that Apple will screw it up somehow with an announcement. This time they did not.
This was a spike,
right?
A little disruptive spike, but it didn't obliterate the show.
Right, but Facebook is building something new. We'll figure that out.
Facebook obliterated.
We'll find that later.
They managed to like everything. I don't know what that means. That's not even funny. Let's move on.
All right.
Pretend that never happened.
The last big story before we kind of get to the bigger things. This is actually, I think this kind of fell under the radar. Huawei is.
Can't believe we're talking about Huawei.
We're talking about Huawei because they want
Didn't we talk about Huawei yesterday?
We talked about the device. We actually have Sam Byford out here. He spoke.
Oh, that's right.
With the head of consumer electronics, Richard Yu, who had quite a few interesting things to say.
Yeah, let's talk to Sam.
Sam, are you with us?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Sam. Sam, you met with he's the CEO of Huawei?
He is the head of consumer electronics.
Head of consumer electronics at Huawei, because they also do heavy industry, I would assume.
Yes.
They're a Chinese company. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys talked about when you were chatting?
So, I mean, the news here is
You might want to hold that mic a little bit closer to your mouth.
Sure, how's this?
Oh, well, it's a lot better. It's a lot better.
So the thing here is he was very bullish and confident. He was trying to convince me that Huawei makes the best phones in the world. Yeah. He called out Samsung, he called out Apple, and he was telling me that basically the new phones that they announced yesterday, the Ascend Mate and the D2, they are the best phones in the world. And what's interesting there is that until now, the company has been very much... It sells a lot of phones, but not in the high end at all. I mean, I don't know about you guys. The only guy I know with a Huawei phone is Paul Miller, and that's because he doesn't use the internet. So
yeah, I mean that what you just said is 100% accurate,
right?
Medically accurate. But I'm just wondering, what do you get? I mean, you use the phones, right? You saw them.
Sure.
Do you feel that he has the stuff to back up his talk? Do they make the best phones? Are they better than Samsung phones?
I mean, so the Ascend Mate has a 6.1-inch screen, right? It's not going to be it's certainly not going to be the best phone for everyone in the world, anyone with pockets, for example. But I mean, it's the quality. I would say is from what I used, it seems like comparable to a Samsung phone or something. It's they're plasticky. They're not like super high end, but they feel pretty good. They don't flex or anything, and I mean, the real issue is they're not going to be sold in the US, and
that's because the US perceives Huawei as a potential spy threat.
This is the thing. He says that
I'm not making that up. I'm not just being racist or something. that's there's some concern that they are going to infiltrate the United States.
No, and
there's been potential investigation.
He absolutely said that, and he said he said that US carriers, he's spoken with them, they're trying to build a relationship, and carriers actually like Huawei's products, but he says that there is influence from the US government, and that there are trust issues, and they need to work, they really need to sort of work hard to get Huawei as an accepted brand, as a trusted company in the US.
Do you, what do you make of his Steve Jobs comment?
I mean, the Steve Jobs comment, so the actual comment, he said, Steve Jobs is gone, now there is a lack of innovation. And I mean, basically he's trying to put the phones in the same conversation as Apple. I mean...
Right. I mean, is he trying to draw, he's saying, and thank God Huawei is here to deliver the kind of innovation that Steve Jobs would have delivered, well, like a 6.1-inch phone.
Exactly. I mean,
6.1-inch Android phone.
Tim Cook is clearly incapable of delivering a 6.1-inch phone.
What is their skin called? What is the name of their skin?
Emotion UI.
Emotion UI. Did you feel moved by it when you used it?
I was not moved. I will say one thing that I thought was a great idea. You have this 6.1-inch phone, but there's like a one-handed mode, so they shrink the keyboard down and they shrink the keypad down to sort of go into the bottom left or the bottom right corner. So you can actually use this gigantic phone in one hand fairly comfortably. I mean, it's still... You certainly can't cover the whole screen with your thumb like you can with an iPhone, for example, but it's a pretty thoughtful innovation. They've clearly thought... It's not like Samsung, for example, who just... Like, they released the Galaxy Note, they blow up the Android UI to a huge screen. Huawei has actually thought about how people might use this device, and I was quite impressed with that.
So it sounds like we've got at least one new Huawei fan in the world, Sam.
Yes, well, I'm a convert. What can I say?
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to move on. But Sam, thanks for joining us. Was there anything that you had there?
That's about it.
Sam, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later in the trailer for cocktails.
Thanks a lot.
What I find interesting, this is the historical thing. I feel like Huawei could be the point where HTC was years and years ago.
No, absolutely.
Just about to push in.
I agree with you 100%. I just think that what I've seen of their products, there's nothing notable about their products. I mean, they feel completely anonymous.
It's
HTC actually started pushing a really interesting and aggressive and different industrial design. They started doing something that made you go, wait a second, whoa, these guys are making really nice phones. They started doing Sense when, before there was really an idea of, I mean, they'd been doing Sense. It was originally called, what was it called?
I don't remember.
It had a different name. Anyhow, the point is, maybe it was just called Sense, but they were doing skinning on Windows Mobile, and they brought that to Android. That was really the start of this whole skinning trend. So I think they had some real stuff to bring to the table. Huawei is just a me too. They're like, oh, you did a big phone, we did a big phone. You guys have it's got pen input, we have a pen input. You're gonna do Windows Phone, we've got a Windows Phone.
It's just so interesting when these companies, like they're big companies and make a lot of money. HTC was one of those, like, they were doing phones for other people, really kind of kowtowing whatever carriers wanted, get the branding. But now Huawei wants to be its own company, wants to have its brand in front.
Right.
And no matter how big they are, that's a huge struggle.
Right.
And it's funny, like, they can't do it, or a small
I gotta tell you,
can really do that.
I mean, Huawei's got an uphill battle with that name in America. I mean, if we still are unsure, if we still are messing it up, average Americans are not going to, I mean, that's just a nightmare. They just need to change the name to like a W or something.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we should move on.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this card one more time.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
That was not bad.
Time I got it.
That was not bad.
That was a straight shot.
I gotta say, that was
straight toward Michael Shane's head.
Right, it almost took off Michael's face, almost took off his eyes.
Buddy,
but
got plenty more of these.
Yeah, just watch it.
All right.
What else?
All right. Anyway, we're gonna get that. This is a cool report from yesterday. Chris Ziegler risked life and limb.
Oh yeah.
To let a car park itself.
Yeah.
While he sat in the passenger seat.
This is awesome.
Crying.
This to me is really futuristic.
This is so much the future.
Yeah. Check out this video, Chris Ziegler and Audi.
And when we come back, Chris Grant.
Nice.
Yes.
This is Chris Ziegler with The Verge, and I am in the passenger seat of this car. I'm not driving. Why not? Because it's Audi's self-driving car. You'll notice that there's nobody in the driver's seat. We're about to go on a wild ride through the parking garage of the Mandarin Oriental. Got some sensors set up around here. These are laser scanners that help the car figure out where to go, and then it goes on a short path, maybe 100, 150 feet out to the front. We get out, then the car turns around. That part has to be done by hand with a real driver, and then we drive back in and the car backs into the spot. It's a little scary. This is our robot overlord future in action. It's happening right here in Las Vegas. I'm a little terrified. Let's see how this goes. So it's slow. This is not like a Google car. This is not like the car that Lexus introduced yesterday. This is going 5 miles an hour through a preset course. Audi plans on getting there. They want to get to a full highway experience. In fact, they're only the second automaker to have permission in the state of Nevada to drive on highways with self-driving cars. But this is not that. This is just to help you park the car without having to be in it. Imagine you're at a mall, you're at some sort of shopping center, pull out your smartphone, hit a button, the car comes and picks you up. That's what this is. So it's pretty awesome, not gonna lie. For the time being, I'm okay driving the car myself. Parking really isn't that big of a deal. But, you know, if I have to pay another 100, 200 bucks to get this feature on my next car, I might do it. Audi's thinking 10 years out for this, so we'll see how that goes. All right, Audi, let's go back to the convention center.
And we're back with Chris Grant, editor-in-chief of Polygon.com and world-renowned hip-hop dancer. Look it up. Yeah. That's crazy. Before we get into talking about Valve and theme and Steam and Valve, can't they come up with some other less mechanical? It's fine.
It's their thing.
What were you just saying about the auto parking? The auto parking?
All this effort, you see it all the time, these cars that can auto park or parallel park, and it's like, just learn to parallel park.
Yeah, but this car,
so much engineering.
This car can also this can come and drive up to you, right? That's the other thing. It can leave the space. It can leave the space and come to you.
That's some Batmobile stuff. That's pretty cool.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, to which you would say, just learn to walk.
Yeah.
Also, get a pair of shoes.
Look, if you know, we'd still be in the caves, Chris. I feel like we talked about this last night. But anyhow, we have you here because we want to talk about Valve.
Before we talk about Valve, do you want to talk about Oculus at all? And again, I mean, we've been talking about all
we can talk about Oculus.
And last night.
So you guys, maybe you see it last night or hear about it. I tweeted about it. We had a magical experience here. We had a chance to play with the Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality headset. That was a Kickstarter project, which is now, there it is right there.
I feel like as soon as you say that, it's like, don't go. No, really.
Yeah. And we've been talking about it. It was like nonstop, 24 hours straight now, because we actually got to try this in the trailer, and it is an incredible, totally futuristic, cutting edge, breathtaking, exhilarating experience. And Chris and I both had our first eyes on, if you will, with the Oculus Rift.
Really? You went there?
And it was crazy. I mean, what's your take on it?
I think it was. We were talking about this yesterday. I think it was the promise of virtual reality that we've heard for a long time. Yeah. It was the first time I've had a 3D gaming experience that I thought was worth anything.
Yeah.
Like a 3D TV with gaming, don't care. It doesn't do anything.
It really, the first thing, and I think they did the same thing for both of us. They tell you when you first put it on, they tell you to look, to turn around all the way around. You can turn your head all the way as far as it can go, and it just feels like you're looking behind you.
Yeah.
You know. And here it is. Here's some footage from it. This is Newell
top shelf
on the. I mean, nothing can do it justice. I mean, you can't. But look at when you see the motion of the game here. Look at how much more real that looks.
Right.
Than what you normally experience in a game, the way you're moving around. Because when you move around with the controller, you're very metered in the control. When this thing is on your head, it actually looks more like a handheld camera.
Here's the craziest thing.
The way the footage is moving.
When we had it on, they kept asking us to roll our heads, like this.
Yeah.
Because it rolls. You can it's not a camera angle you're used to seeing in games where you sort of have a horizon.
Right.
line.
I mean, you can, it's. You start to do things like peek around corners. They did this thing where there were some sparks flying off of a line.
They showed the sparks. Actually, what was even more interesting. This just sounds like the hippiest thing. I was like, I just watched a fan for like a minute. I was just
the fact that you can look up in anything.
Awesome.
What I thought was interesting was not just the sparks falling down, as you're up underneath it, but there was this little area, this little vent area next to it that you could kind of look into. And it just felt like I'm looking into something in reality. Anyhow, it's a really, really incredible product. They're starting to sell they're selling dev kits for it, which include the goggles for $300, right?
I don't think they have a price yet.
No, I think
finalized. Is it $300?
I don't know the price. But I think it's going to be affordable.
It's affordable. It's amazing.
I mean, I think there's been some chatter. I'm not sure.
And it's amazing. What we saw was very low resolution, but it's still incredibly immersive because it's super responsive.
Yeah.
It's complete depth of field. You can't see the black bars that take you out.
It's really something. And I think that when you think about gaming, and we're talking a lot here about gaming, which is this Valve stuff is why you're sitting here. Mm-hmm. This is another piece of that puzzle that when you start to think about all these pieces we're putting together. technology in general looks exciting, but gaming especially is getting really weird and cool and interesting.
It is. So let's talk about Valve. It is an interesting story here because there's no public presence. But I think it's actually one of the most interesting stories of CES.
And they were at CES last year as well.
Right.
And in fact, when we talked about the Steam box, the rumor of the Steam box, what we heard was at the CES, at the last CES, they were showing this kind of reference hardware to people and saying, this is what we want to build.
Yeah, to partners and manufacturers.
Exactly.
Right, and now now they're being way more open about it. They're meeting with hardware partners, they're setting the outlines. Gabe Newell, Valve CEO, and basically just the forward presence of the company, sat down with us for about 45 minutes and just kind of outlined everything they're doing. What is the Steam box? What are they being very controlling of? What do they want partners to do?
Yeah.
And it's broad, it's far-reaching. The general gist, like the poetic version of this, is good, better, best.
Yeah.
Good is a $99 console. It does local streaming. Better is tightly controlled. This is the specs we want. It's a $300 box. If you want to do it with us, we kind of tell you what it is.
Yeah.
And best is anything you want.
Right. You want to build your own mega system and turn it into a Steam box. No problem.
Exactly.
There'll be like disk drives. They said, manufacturers want to put disk drives in, but they're allowed, they're expensive. They increase the size of the box. So it's like that's kind of on the high end.
Right. I mean, I think it's brilliant. I mean, my question is, can this have an impact on the community, on the gaming community as it is now, on the industry? I mean, we've got some pretty entrenched players, right? Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft. They're obviously not going anywhere anytime soon. So how does the Steam box matter? Can it matter on a grand scale, or is this much more of a niche product?
I think it's going to be interesting. You see PC gaming kind of growing in popularity right now for a couple reasons. One, we're at the end of a console life cycle. A lot of people are looking for something new and exciting and more powerful, and you're seeing it on PCs. If you compare Far Cry 3 on a PC to Far Cry 3 on your Xbox, it's kind of night and day. It looks incredible on a computer. Indie games. There's all these indie games coming out that are overwhelmingly on PC if they're not on your phone. And a lot of those games don't come to your console. So if you have a box or a device that makes it easier to play that stuff, you can play it on your television in your living room. Valve told me yesterday that it was their customers that told them they wanted the Steam box, that they wanted to play their games in their living room. They're doing it. They already have an Xbox. So Valve is, in a lot of ways, reacting to what their customers already do. They already play games in their living room. So the question is, how do you make the PC experience work in the living room? And that's what they're trying to do.
I mean, to me, and I'm obviously not the core audience, I'm a specialist, but I really love the idea of, look, I don't want a game on a desktop. I want to sit down with my big TV with the great sound in my living room and play games. But if I had the opportunity to play better looking games, more immersive games that are bigger because there's no limitation on what you can do or how big it can be.
Games that are cheaper.
And cheaper and of a wider variety in the sense that there's no real barrier to entry for developers. To me, that's like, it sounds like a dream come true. I mean, I would love to stick that under my TV and use it. I feel like there's got to be a market for that. I think that it's going to be some of this is going to be about the games. They need to deliver something.
This is your pitch for Valve to do another Half-Life.
They need to do Half-Life. They need to do the third Half-Life, and that doesn't sound right. And make it exclusive to this thing, or just do a bigger game than anybody's done before, a better game.
Do you think the Steam box is going to live outside of Steam, or just be another extension of the platform? Because I don't imagine them fragmenting anyway. I think it's like
no. I mean, they're not going to not make it available to all of their users, obviously. I just think that there needs to be some incentive for me to go, all right. For me there is incentive, but for the broader audience, I think you need to say, how can you do it? I'm just really excited that there is the opportunity for this innovation. I think we were talking about what led to before the show started. We were talking about what led to the Oculus Rift, and about this global situation. With cheaper parts, better parts, open source really taking over, really becoming mainstream in many ways. With Android, and I think this is a product of that in many ways. Not of Android, but of just this feeling that the stuff is cheap enough, it's easy enough. There's an audience there that really cares about it because the technology or the gaming audience has grown so big. and so mainstream. I think it's really exciting time for this stuff.
Exactly. Here's something else that was kind of interesting about what he got into with that. Not so much just that like we're gonna go on the big screen, but like this is our chance to say, you know, we're not necessarily happy with the keyboard and mouse. We're not necessarily happy with the gamepad. We want to find a new way of like really interfacing with these games. Like really thinking like long and hard. It's definitely not motion. He's not a huge fan of Kinect, but there was a long talk about biometrics. The idea like your wrist kind of tells what you're about to do. It actually reacts faster.
I mean, this is true, Chris. Valve has been working on. They've been experimenting a lot, from what we understand.
Valve is a company that likes to experiment, right? They're a private company. They've got basically one owner. They are really rich. I think it's the highest grossing company per employee in the country.
Really?
In the world,
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy.
They only have like a couple hundred employees. So they have the luxury of taking all the time in the world on the Steam box, where it's rumored for a year, and they're like, we're not in a rush.
Right.
And so they have a whole team that's doing R&D on things like biometrics. They have a whole team that's doing work on.
This is actually going right past it.
Guys, I gotta go. Sorry, I've gotta just jump out. They have a whole team that's doing work on education and gaming, and figuring out how we can use games to work in education. Why? Because they're interested in it.
Right.
I think they said like one person basically could ship a product at Valve. Normally it's like as little as 3 because you need some buy-in. But there's almost no bureaucracy. There's almost no kind of organizational structure. So yeah, if you can convince enough. If you're a person at Valve, Greg Coomer, who started Big Picture, which became Steambox.
You guys have a piece on him that went
up this morning,
on Polygon. You should check it out.
So Coomer,
sorry.
So Greg Coomer.
I'm so choked up about this piece you ran. It's amazing.
So he started. It was basically his idea. He was one of the first champions, and he just had to convince a couple other people at Valve that this was a good enough idea. And as soon as you have some buy-in from a couple people, now you've got a project that the company can officially sanction. And so Big Picture started about 2 years ago, and it's kind of grown into this this effort, right? This Steambox effort.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing is that the Steambox effort isn't just this kind of idea of partnering with outside hardware manufacturers and trying to get almost outsource the work and convince the Alienwares of the world or the XI3s of the world to create a Steambox for you. But Valve itself wants to make one. I think Gabe was pretty specific when he said, we're going to make one, we're going to ship it, it's going to have Linux on it. If you want to put Windows on it, you can. And that's kind of a crazy idea, right?
Yeah.
Like Valve's not a hardware company.
Yeah, it's a really exciting development, I think. And I'm just glad they're now talking about it. Because I think there are all these rumors. We talked about it. You guys have talked about it a ton. And it's like, just say if you're doing something or not. Give us some sense of what's happening.
That gets down to the idea that Valve, as a privately owned company, doesn't need to market it. Like they don't have the same effort where it's like, okay, now we're going to tease it, we're going to announce it, we're going to have a big event. They're just kind of
right,
whatever.
Right. And this maybe we would not even be having this conversation had we not harassed Gabe into giving us this interview. Essentially,
it's luck of the draw.
Anyhow, I think we need to move on.
We do need to move on.
Unfortunately, I mean, Chris was actually on the Verge cast last night, and I thought it was brilliant performance on the Verge cast. And I would like to just spend the rest of the day talking to you. So when we're done here,
cancel my appointment.
Please do. But thanks for coming on.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're here for the rest of the show, right?
I think so. Just hanging out.
You're
going to see more of Chris Graham.
All right, and the Vergecast is awesome. You can catch it on the Video Hero. It's still there. Vergecast will come back tonight, tomorrow night, every single night.
Vergecast is like a vampire that you can't even stake it in the heart. It doesn't have a heart.
And this would be vampire.
Its heart was broken.
And this is Vampire Weekday
by its vampire girlfriend.
Right. We also have Top Shelf in the afternoon, 90 and 95 times a day.
Yeah. Tomorrow is our last first.
Tomorrow's our last first.
Is that right?
Well, last first of CES.
Last first of CES, but. Well, how are we going to celebrate? We need to really think hard. Well, by the way, we'll take suggestions on ways to celebrate our final first of CES.
First last.
Last first.
Last first.
First last. Last first.
First last. If you have any ideas on how to actually even say that, would be great.
Yeah, that would be really
anyway, those are shows. We have day 2 of the show floor. We're going to really look at
there's going to be more news today. We're out on the show floor. This is the day where we really start to find the stuff that you haven't heard about yet, that maybe you didn't see a press conference on, or that
And here's one, if you don't see it, watch CES stuff in years past, you might have seen it. But we got Dante Dorazio, one of our star reporters in New York.
This is our weird
our very weird. Well, you just check it out.
Yeah, a face cake. It's called face cake.
I've just stepped into a dress here at CES 2013. This is a virtual signage prototype that they have here from Facecake. It's called the Facecake Swivel. We saw this last year, but What this is using is a Connect, and they've designed this they've scanned these clothes, and the idea is that when you're walking down the street, you might see this signage, and you'll decide that you'd like to step into it and see what it's like. So if I step in, I could check out this purse, and I could add a necklace, and I could even switch hands. Facecake is hoping that retailers and other advertisers will be using these signs in malls and even in their front windows to get people not only to view a photograph of the clothing or the accessories, but they'll be able to actually try it on. And it's not in any stores yet at the moment, but they plan on improving it, and I'm sure they're shopping it around. The sign's based on the same technology that we saw last year from Facecake, which is the Facecake Swivel, a virtual dressing room that lets you choose dresses and suits and ties that you'd like to try on. They've also announced here at CES a Facecake Swivel Up Close, which is designed for you to try on makeup in a very similar fashion. The technology itself is based off of a Connect sensor. They're reading body size, and they've already created models in-house. They've created models of clothing and accessories, and they're mapping it onto your body. The sign itself is designed for retailers or advertisers that would like to not only show static imagery on digital signs, but they'd like to try to get people to actually try on these clothes without even stepping into the store. Of course, we haven't seen this yet in action, like in reality, but the Facecake says that they'll keep on working on it and they'll keep on improving it, of course. Swivel ran a trial of the technology this past fall at 20 Bloomingdale's, and if you'd like to try it out yourself, we're told that they're going to start running it later this year.
And on that note, you've officially been firsted. We'll see you tomorrow.